Good morning, everyone. Well, if you saw our note in Wednesday's weekly email, you know that we're doing something a little bit different this week. Why, you might ask? Well, I will put a link to our video explaining why right up here, and you can click to watch it once this message is over. But the short version of why is that we wanted to give you an opportunity this week to rest and reflect. The article that I quoted last Sunday from Giulio Gambuto talked about how we have an opportunity as the new normal comes barreling towards us to stop for a moment. And as he said, to think deeply about what you want to put back into your life. Many of us have had perhaps swirling thoughts and feelings about just that question, but we haven't had the time dedicated, we haven't sat down and articulated or clarified those things for ourselves. So the good news is we have a resource for you to help you do that this morning. You'll find a link in the video description below, and we'll put it into the chat right now, to a resource guide for our current message series. Our resource guides are put together by a group of volunteers here at WellSprings, what we call our spiritual development ministry. And they intend these guides to be a resource for you, to go deeper with the topics that we preach about on Sunday mornings. They have links to further reading, to music and poetry, suggested spiritual practices and journaling prompts, and also questions for discussion with friends or with family or with others here at WellSprings. And by the way, if you ever want to find these guides for old message series, you can do that on our website. Just go to wellspringsuu.org, click News at the top, and then filter the news posts for the tag Spiritual Development Ministry, and you'll find them all right there. So for this next hour today, we're inviting you to use that resource guide in whatever way is most helpful for you. Maybe you have not actually taken the time, though the thoughts have swirled in your head. You haven't sat down and answered some of those questions that might be arising for you this week, especially. As we mark 1 year living in a pandemic, we might be thinking, what is different in my life now because of COVID? What's different than it was last March or last February, and what has stayed the same? Maybe you're wondering, what has been worse about my life over the past year? That list might come easily to you, but also what has maybe been better about these new routines? How have you grown this year? Have you talked with the people in your life about how well or not well our old normal was working for you? And are there things that you would like to keep in your life from this past year? Now is a good time to reflect and to maybe talk about, or at least articulate to yourself, some of those things. If you have young children at home, our youth spirit director, Miss Carol, has also put together some resources for you, for your kids to rest and meditate and reflect this morning. So we'll put a link to those in the video description below and into the chat as well. So for the next hour, maybe you would like to pull out a notebook and write down your responses. Maybe you want to sit with your family in the living room and talk about them together, or take them outside, maybe chat about them with a friend on a walk. But take this next hour for you to practice one conscious breath and one conscious step and one conscious orientation towards what your future might look like. At 11 o'clock, you're invited to join us as usual for a coffee hour on Zoom, but it'll be a little bit different. We will break everyone who comes into smaller groups so that all of us can take turns offering and listening to each other's thoughts and reflections on what this past year has taught us. Maybe you will have a whole new insight because of hearing someone else's story. So I hope to see some of you live at 11 o'clock on Zoom. And for those of you who prefer to do this exercise in private, I wish you insight. And I wish you maybe some clarity and some peace, and certainly a whole heaping helpful of self-compassion on this journey of reflection. And for all of us, I hope to see you again here next week for a more traditional WellSpring service. Until then, be well.